One thing I've never really seen tackled by any sort of speculative fiction is the idea of how space colonization will affect the evolution of language. Languages evolve over time, and things like geographical separation and cultural isolation can cause one language to split into many. For example, in the Polynesian Islands, one universal language split into multiple languages, about 40 of them according to Wikipedia, and though all of them retain commonalities like cognates and vowel structure, they are all different languages. How will different planets affect a language like English over 2,000 years? First off, we have to take a look at something similar that has happened in the past, and analyze why it happened. The Polynesian language tree split into different languages because of a very clear geographical isolation. When the speakers of your language are separated completely for 2,000 years, accents turn into dialects, which then turn into wholly different languages. Let's take another example. Latin was spoken throughout the Roman Empire, and during its reign was basically universal. What happened after the fall of the empire was that the language of Latin diverged and became what are today known as the Romance languages. That brings us to an interesting point. Did the fall of Rome cause the Romance languages to diverge, or were they destined to become the way they are today even if Rome had survived? This brings us to my next point, communication between colonies. Will the colonies be separated by relativity and 40 years of travel like in Ender's Game, or will 2 hours in hyperspace be enough to get you across the galaxy as in Star Wars? Because in each scenario, the evolution of language will be different. We already know what will happen if the planets are isolated by time and relativity, because it's already happened before. Basically, what will happen there is that the language of the colonists will change, though it will stay similar to its parent language. However, what I think is an interesting outcome is if the second idea is true. If, somehow, the internet becomes intergalactic, language will take an interesting turn. What will happen then is something that is happening today. Language will become homogeneous. This is happening all over the world. Take Japanese as an interesting example of what could happen in the future. There are dozens of words borrowed straight from English that have become a part of the Japanese language, though they may not be formalized yet. Just like how English borrowed from Latin and Greek, today's Japanese is borrowing from English. I think that with the promulgation of the internet in today's culture, that borrowing will exceed by far what happened with English and Latin, because settlers of another planet will probably be multicultural. Unlike the age of empires, where one culture suppressed another and forced its language onto another, in Commonwealth space you will have people from all nationalities on equal footing. A Creole will emerge, created by the multicultural spaces that exist inside of space colonizing ships. Take the ISS, for example. At any one time, there can be astronauts from any number of nations with any number of native languages. So this is how hyperspace language would look. 1 or 2 galactic basics that are based on perhaps English or Russian or Chinese, or a mix of those, and each settlement will have its own Creole descended from the language of the parent generation. One interesting thing that is bound to happen is a stoppage of the divergence of the written word. In ancient China, writing was universalized, and so people who speak different dialects, who can't understand each other's words, will be able to understand each other's writing. The internet will create this on a grand scale in a space-age civilization. People's spoken languages will diverge thanks to the size of space and the time it takes to travel interstellar, but the internet and FTL communication will homogenize the written word. So, 2,000 years in the future, a person from Frogstar B speaking Frogstarian, which descended from Mandarin, Russian, and Spanish, will be able to go to Bespin where they speak Vespese, which descended from and they will be able to communicate, but only through the written word thanks to the internet. So that's my theory. Comment or like if you want more, or subscribe. Please, subscribe. Thanks!